Hello everyone, Lit here, and we're coming back to currency video, and in this video we will be talking about Scarab or bloodlines. This strat is not new. I think the first one who made this is Reto. I do this for a while if I really need currency. I think this strategy can generate a very fast currency, but I never really put into test, so I don't really know like how much deep route it makes, so I guess we find out today. So let's begin with the setup. For the number one is the maps. For maps, I'm going to use Sanctuary maps, and the reason for that one is because number one, Sanctuary is cheaper. Number two, for the layout, I think Sanctuary is better for this kind of farms since it have a bigger space compared to like Abominations. Abomination is like one very narrow corridor. And for the map itself, the most important part is more Scarabs modifier, because we are farming Scarabs, so you want at least 100% more Scarabs. And for the mod, there's one mod that I think you should avoid. It is a Union of Souls. What this specially did is make all your magic monster have like ridiculous amount of HP, so all of them become very tanky. And because in this strat most of the monster will be magic because of bloodline, having that mod is basically going to make your map really slow, and it's probably going to break your map too. In my case, I still can do it, but it's going to take way too long to finish them. Other than that, just filter off the mod that you cannot do, and that's it. And for the Scarabs, number one we're going to use is Scarab of Bloodlines, and this one make all monster pack in area are at least magic, so most of the monster in the map will be magic. And we're going to increase the pack size using Scarab of Monster Lineage. This increase 40% of magic pack size. And for the third Scarab, we're going to use Scarab of Hunted Traitors. And for the last one, we're going to use Scarab of Glittering. So how the Scarab works is every time you kill a monster, you're going to get the quantity and rarity. It's going to cap out at 100% for quantity and 200% for rarity. Over time, it's going to decay, so you're going to reduce until you kill a monster again. You go up to 100 pretty quick, and then when you're not killing, it's going to go down. The decay rate is not that bad, it's pretty slow, so as long as the distance between mobs is not too far, you're not going to lose that much quantity. But you do want to maintain the buff as much as possible. For the Atlas tree, this is the Atlas tree that I'm going to use. It's a pretty standard for back to basics forms, so we take all the effect modifier nodes, so we take all the Scarabs nodes since this is Scarabs farms. And one node is probably on the blocking side. I used to block everything because I'm kind of fishing for creations, because creation is expensive, 9 to 10 diff. But there's one mechanic that you probably do not want to block, and I will probably not block this one. For the next one is the Black Thumb. This is basically blocking Harvest Scarabs, and the reason for not blocking this one, because Harvest Scarabs, there's 3 Harvest Scarabs, 2 of them is actually have a price. Cornucopia is pretty expensive, and doubling is like 2.9 C each, so 2 of them is pretty common. At least the doubling one is pretty common. The cornucopia I don't think is that rare, so not blocking Harvest probably going to benefit you, even though it's going to lower your chance to get creation a little bit. And that's I think for the Atlas tree. And this is the breakdown for the profits. Number one, we'll talk about the costs, and for the cost, Sanctuary maps, all the Scarabs, and the rolling cost I put 20C. Generally speaking, the rolling is not too bad. Because you do not look for a certain mod, like in barrel, the rolling cost is become a lot higher because you have to look for barrel mod, and that especially increase the rolling cost. In this one, I think I'm average around like 10 to 15 C. I just put 20 C just in case, but the map is generally easy to roll. I mean, it's depending on your build, but if you can do a lot of mods, it's generally easy to roll. And the total cost is 65 divine, so this is a high investment strategy. It's not cheap to start, and the cost per map is 1.3 diff. Now let's talk about the profits. So this is all the loot that I get from 50 maps. I sort it out. I take few things out that are like do not have any much price. And for the profit, for the Scarab breakdown, we have quite a lot of Scarabs. I do not count the total Scarabs because I do not want to loot everything. It's going to make the maps a lot longer. So the only Scarab that I take is 2C and above, and in this case, the lower one I think is 3.5, right? This is the cheapest Scarab that I pick is basically Scarab of Shadow Crow. I think this one is a Black Morrigan one. And one of the best Scarab is I'm a little bit unlucky about the creations. In this one I only get 4. Usually in 15 map I will expect something like 6 to 7 creations. It's usually I get around that much. So in this one it's pretty bad in terms of RNG, because creation is the big money here. And for the fragments, it's still a big part of the profits. Judging based on this data, you still have to kill the boss, so you need to make sure you're able to kill the boss here. The boss in Sanctuary I think is a lot faster to kill than Abominations, just because it's only have like 2 pace. When you bring her HP down to 50%, it will summon beta and it will start doing stuff on the ground. And then after you kill the beta, you can just kill her directly. It's pretty easy to do. I think the boss is pretty squishy. So if you have good enough DPS, I think in this build I have around like 50 to 60 mil, you can bring her down pretty fast. And one thing also about the boss in Sanctuary, it drops the fragment instantly. I don't know why it's only Sanctuary. Because in Abomination, when you kill the boss, you have to wait for a while. I think around like 5 to 10 seconds. I think it's around 10 seconds for everything to drop and you get your fragment. It's pretty boring to wait there for 10 seconds. But in this one, it drop instantly, so it does cut 10 seconds off your map, so it's pretty nice. And for the all flames, nothing special here. It's a little bit unlucky too. Usually in T17 farm you will see some like mid-sack, something like shaper, but in this one there's none of them, so it's a little bit unlucky on that part. And the last tab is miscellaneous. It's just Voidborn. I get 1 enhanced, 20 Cs, not worth that much. And there's Enlightened card here, which is pretty interesting. I also got one is a Sucker of the Sinless. This one is pretty expensive. This is for Bottle of Fate. And yeah, I think that's all the loot that I got. And total gross profit is 217 divine. After cutting the cost, we have net profit of 152.6 divine. And the average time per map is 3.5 minutes. I put it here 3.5, but in my own run, it's around 3 and 3.5. So as usual, I pick the higher ends. Some run is even like sub 3 minutes. So it usually take around like 2 and 2.5 minutes to clear all the mobs. Some mobs is really annoying, like the lobster is pretty annoying. It can make your map a little bit longer, but generally speaking, it's around, in my case, it's around 2 and 12 minutes. And usually the rest of it is just for looting. So this is probably one thing that I have to mention. If your build is fast and if your hand is fast enough, and if your loot filter is strict enough, you can do this like me. The way I do it is I will clear and loot at the same time. And this will cut a lot of time because number one, T17 map is pretty big. So just walking around is going to take some time. By just clearing and looting at the same time, you do cut a lot of times. But in doing so, you really need a strict filter. You cannot do this if your filter is not strict because you're going to waste too much time looting. And in my case, my loot filter is pretty strict for the Scarab, so I can do this while clearing and looting at the same time. But there is another options if your hand is not fast enough, if your loot filter is not strict enough, and you do not want to, straighten it. You can clear all the map first, just so you not lose the value of the glittering, and you can loot after. You're going to loot more, but you're going to also spend more times inside the map. So I do try that methods. It end up have lower div per hour just simply because you spend too much time. Lower value Scarab is not really contributing that much. Like by straightening my filter, I think I lost around like 20 div, but it make my map from like 5 minutes into like 3.5 minutes. So I think that sacrifice is worth it because in the end of the day, what I look for is the expensive Scarab anyway. And that's basically make the div per hour become 52.32 div per hours, which is pretty good. I don't think this can compete with mid-sec if you have a good enough build. Mid-sec is pretty crazy. I do mid-sec sometimes, but mid-sec is pretty hard to do. So if you compare to mid-sec, this strategy is a lot easier to do. And if you compare this to barrel, the map rolling is a lot easier too, so it's less painful, and this is the reason why I'm prefer this strat over barrel, even though I think barrel probably going to give you more because cost for barrel strategy is pretty low. But I prefer to not rolling the map too much, so I usually just go for this strat and just farm a bunch of Scarabs and I just sell it manually because most of the Scarab that I pick is pretty high value, so I do not need to sell it on TFT or like bloodlines or any third-party website. And yeah, I think that's conclude all the video. And if you like the video, please consider like and subscribe. That will help the channel a lot. And thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one.